Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Ellie Asked. I'm joined by Gemma today. Gemma is, so if you listen to episode 1 with Rachel, Gemma is Rachel's bestie. I think Rachel and Gemma have known each other for years. So I guess I know Gemma through Rachel, but Gemma has a really successful business local to me, very much like Rachel, which I'm sure she'll tell you some more about in a minute when she introduces herself. So that's how I know. I've been on a few of her workshops as well. They've been great. I love anything. She's very creative. All the stuff that she does is really interesting and different. And so I'll put her social media links up on Facebook when this goes live. So over to you, Gemma. Do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners?
I will. So I'm Gemma of It Started With a Stitch. So I'm an embroidery artist, craft specialist, pom-pom queen, whatever that people want to attribute to it. And I also work for Well in Works, which is a community centre in Grimsby, as a project development officer. So I arrange workshops and get other people on board to deliver craft and that kind of thing. My mum to Robbie, who's 12. So yeah, that's me.
And when she said she's a pom-pom queen, I forgot to mention that I have an amazing rainbow string of pom-poms in my kitchen, which I'll add a photo to the podcast. I'll add it into the comments because it is amazing. So when I asked Gemma for these rainbow pom-poms, what I got blew my mind. It was way beyond what I thought. And everybody who comes to my house is like, "Oh, did you make those?" And I say, "Yes." No, I don't.
Good, you should. Honestly, that was one of those things where I had it strung up in the hall because I had nowhere else to display it, to take pictures of, and I had to keep like ducking under it to get out and in the house. It was one of the first things I made when I moved in here, and I just loved it. You know, there's some things where you just don't want to give them away, and I was like, oh, so many pom-poms, just wanted to keep them.
The amount of time it must have taken you, but it has pride of place in my kitchen, and it looks amazing, and so many people comment on it. It's really amazing. So I will put a picture on, and I have to run around tidying. I have to get it from an angle where you can't see all the kids' toys and all the mess everywhere. So, but anyway, moving on to today's question. Another great question is, so what or who am I beneath all my roles? So fire away. What are you beneath your roles?
I'm not sure I know. I think sometimes I forget because it's just kind of like, what is my most recent? So like now I am Gemma of It Started With a Stitch, and I've had ladies come in. I used to work in a clothes shop, and a lady came in, she was like, oh, it's the pom-pom lady. I was like, I've got a name, like my name is Gemma. But people kind of remember certain things, don't they? So there's like, depending on, like you say, how you've met people and where you know people from, people kind of have that connection. So I'm either Gemma of It Started With a Stitch, who does workshops, and that's where people have met me, or Gemma that worked at House of Fraser, or Gemma who worked in that other shop in Freshney Place, or, you know, Robbie's mum, and that's the sort of thing. So I think I'm not sure who really I am beneath all those things, because when do you ever not do any of those roles and go back to just like now Robbie's not here, he's at his dad's. So like, is this me now? I'm not really sure anymore, if I'm honest. I just thought it was a really interesting question.
Yeah, totally. And I think that when you started talking about it, I was straight away popped into my head that when I had my kids, I lost my name. You kind of lose your name when you become a mum. So when you go to baby groups, and you don't really necessarily have your name in your own right, do you? You end up being, I was Flora's mummy, and then I was Flora and Clementine's mummy, and so yeah. And how do those roles shape you? I know that, like I've mentioned this before on the podcast, that I've been a teacher. I was a teacher for 15 years, and that role definitely shaped me. It definitely was part of my contract, actually, that I had to. I couldn't behave in a way that, you know, that would bring disrepute on the profession, you know. So literally the next day I dyed my hair purple when I finished and stuff like that. So definitely shaped me. How does it feel? You know, how does it feel? So if you're no longer, I don't know, say you're no longer Robbie's mum, you're still Robbie's mum, but when he's not there, are you a different Gemma? Does that role, does that label?
I think it's just it's not, I mean, me and Robbie's dad separated when Robbie was 4. So Robbie's known that more than he's known us being together. And Robbie's always split his time 50-50. So we're all really lucky in that situation. Robbie's dad's great. Like, I could not ask for a better dad for Robbie. And they got on so well, and we still interact. We go to different, you know, like his family, still my family, and vice versa. So, and I know there's some kids that don't have that kind of setup. So it's just kind of our normal now. But when he's not here, it's like I think that he's still here. So I'm like, oh, I've not fed him. Oh, like, should I have, is he still on the PlayStation? Like, what am I doing? And so it takes me a little while to get out of that habit of being mum.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly think, then it is like my time. So I don't have to give the TV over to him on a night time, because that's his new routine. So he'll come down and he'll take Netflix over. So he's obsessed with cooking programs. So that's our night times now. And since sort of lockdown started, he's obsessed with like £1 Million Menu or whatever it's called, and MasterChef, and you know, he loves that kind of thing. And that's like, we've actually grown closer because of that, I think, lately. So we've had more time together. So I do miss him when he's not here, but I do literally then just crack on with everything else. So I go back to being more of, it started with the stitch Gemma at that point, because I'm not having to make sure he's in bed at a certain time, or he's fed, or, you know, he's not spent 24 hours on Fortnite. You know, I've got that kind of freedom to think, right, I'll do what I want, and I can eat when I like and drink when I like, and, you know, the structure kind of goes. Yeah. So that's different when he's not here. But yeah, you just kind of, I just revert to a different version.
Is there a role then that you would like that you don't currently have?
I don't know. Like, I think the further I go through like jobs that I've had, and now I've got my own business, and I started my own business right back in like 2002 originally. 2002. And it felt very different then. I had to work at the same time. So I was working a full-time job, plus a part-time job, plus that, you know, and it wasn't profitable. It wasn't anything that was really growing, but I loved it. And it's got to a point now where actually it is a business, and it is mine. And you just sort of, I feel more free with what I do. So I feel like I've got more options now, whereas I've always felt like I've had to kind of stick to certain things. Like you say, with being a teacher, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that sudden realization that I don't work for anybody. I work for me. So if I want green hair, that's fine. If I want tattoos, that's fine. If I want to, you know, rather than being, I think we've gone through certain jobs and things where you've been really kind of pigeonholed into a certain shape that actually I really hated being. And that's something I'm aware of now, that probably quite a lot of people's perceptions of me as that person, because that's all they ever knew me as.
Right.
Which is kind of the exact opposite of what I feel like I am in, you know, real life. So it's a really hard thing to try and like get used to, I suppose, that people think that I'm this like horrendous sales manager from a job that they had. But, you know, when you realise you were given all these kind of red tape and rules and that kind of thing, and that's not naturally, you know, who I am. So it's nice to now be that person where I can just be nice to people, and that can be part of my job, you know, just because I want to. And things can be sparkly, and things can be fun, and pom-pomming is a real job, you know, and all that kind of stuff that previously has been like a negative thing, is actually now what I need to do more of.
Yeah, it sounds, I'm wondering how many people listening to you talk at the moment are thinking, what roles have I got currently that are putting me in a box, or, you know, pigeonholing me into something that actually, I love the phrase of real life, because actually that's really interesting that you've used that phrase, like real life, like as if actual life, as if like some of your life was a soap opera, or you know, you were acting through it.
Do you know this? I worked for House of Fraser for 15 years, and I had jobs after that before I do what I do now. But I always kind of go back, when I think about my working life is like I've retired, and kind of go back to that, because I think it was it shaped me massively with how, not demanding, but like, I think I became a lot more assertive, is the right word, but not always in a good way. Like sometimes it was misdirected, and I think you kind of fired up into this role and you give yourself all this kind of self-importance that you just worked in a shop. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't saving lives. You know, we were selling things to people who didn't really need any of it. It was all luxury. And you kind of inflate yourself with all this ego. And then you realise that actually it's not really important at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just nothing. I mean, yeah, it pays wages and that kind of thing, and it keeps you in a job. But what I'm not sure personally that I think I learned more about myself and what I needed to change and what I needed to not do than what I did need to do. And actually now, looking at it, I love what I do, and you know, I make the rules now. I'm not kind of forced into being what other people expect you or want you to be.
Yeah. Again, I'm just wondering again how many people listening to this are thinking, that's me. I'm in a role. I've got a job role. One of my roles is to go to work. And I spoke to in one of the previous podcasts about work being, you know, almost like that word work. You know, you have to have the Sunday night blues, and you have to. It almost feels like the things as you're talking to me. It feels like you're very free now. You've got a lot of freedom and flexibility.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
So that I'm just wondering how many people listening going, oh. Almost like how like when you said in my working life, I feel a little bit like that. So like when I was a teacher, when I used to work, even though I'm still working now, but it's something that I feel so passionate about and I love. And don't get me wrong, I did feel like that about teaching, and I love working with the kids, but it's all, like you say, all the red tape and all the boxes and all the ticking the boxes and all that sort of stuff that isn't being in the classroom with the children. So and being the person that I didn't think that I, you know, really want. And like you say, that ego has such a massive, you know, well, impact on people thinking, oh, I've got to progress. And was there something then that made you flip your perspective, that made you say, no, I'm not doing this anymore? Or was it just like lots of little things and or was there a straw that broke the camel's back, or that went, no, I'm not doing this. I want to be free. I want to work, but do something I really enjoy so it doesn't feel like work?
I think there were lots of little things, and I think maybe at the time I didn't see them. I think it takes you to look back and think, right, there was that, there was this, there was so and so. I was struggling with my mental health whilst I was at House of Fraser and didn't really realise, just thought I'm like a total cynic, really. Like in my head, everything else is rose tinted and lovely. But I was having panic attacks and I didn't realise. So I just thought the worst, avoided the doctors, and thought that something was seriously like physically wrong with me, so just didn't go. And it got to a point at work where they kind of put me in a car and took me to the doctors and was like, you need to go see somebody. And all this stuff sort of came out to the doctor and told her what I thought was wrong with me. She was like, right, okay. Tell me a little bit about what's been going on in your personal life. So I was like, well, me and my husband are separated, and my son's spending a week with me and a week with his dad, and I'm back at my mum's house and all this. And she was like, right, okay. She said, it's classic anxiety. And it was like, oh, okay. Are you sure it's not so and so? And like, she tested me there, and then I was like, what about this? It could be this. And someone saying to me, it's this. She gave me like a couple of booklets to read, and you read it all, and you were like, that makes sense. That's exactly how I've been feeling. And then sort of 3 or 4 weeks after that, I went for counselling for one session, chewed the woman's ear off. But just having somebody say to me, this is what it is, and it's entirely natural because all that stuff's got to go somewhere. And it just went up here. It didn't go out because I'd not spoken to anybody. So I think once I'd got that in my head, I changed with who I was because I was aware of it, but people changed with how they were with me. So it was a case of, oh, she's having a moment. Oh, you know, let's not bother her. Oh, she's gonna, and I was like, I am actually fine. I just, you know, I'm allowed to be narked about something. I'm allowed to be stressed out about something. Doesn't mean that I'm about to have some kind of mental breakdown where you need to remove me and send me home. And actually felt like I was being really trapped. And the more you sort of see it and you chat to people and you think, this isn't right. And it got to a point where another job came up and I went for it. I went for a lower job actually and got the higher job. And that belief in being able to do something that you've probably been told for ages that you couldn't do, and then to actually go and do something different and to leave that behind and be able to leave it behind and think, I can pick and choose. And I think I'd just got used to the routine of it being, that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's my job. So you just keep going. And you see other people who've been there in any kind of job 25, 30 years, and you just think that's it, that's what you do. You just go and you just carry on. And I think being able to sort of sit down and think, actually, I don't enjoy it. It's making me miserable, and I'm making people miserable because of how I'm being. And that makes you feel even worse. So to be able to leave that behind and look back and think, actually, I don't want to make people feel like that, because that makes me feel rubbish. I want people to enjoy coming to what I do now for work. So into my shop, which is my workshop or a session or whatever it is, and people's responses and stuff to you previously, like, pom-pom is not a real job, everything's too fluffy, you know, all the things that were kind of criticisms in that kind of retail work environment, and now what make me successful in doing what I do. Yeah. So it's just finding that thing where the stuff that you love and do anyway naturally can fit in with a work thing, and in that, and it's not easy, and I know it's not always a given that you can do that, but to be able to just think, right, if things aren't making you happy, do something about it. You know, just you can choose to leave, you can choose to go.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing for people to realise.
Yeah, totally. And I think just picking up on quite a few points actually, but that the fact that you knew yourself better, that awareness, I think everything starts with self-awareness. And I was just like thinking, coaching, obviously I'm a coach. Yeah. And that it feels to me like almost that when you're, if you don't talk, you know, you said it all went up into my head, it didn't come out, that but if you had a coach to air that time, you know, to have that time, what, once a month, once a fortnight, you know, it just, if it's just once a month. I have a coach now that I speak to once a month, and I air everything, and everything comes out, and you know, he asks me questions, and then I reflect on them, and I think, oh yeah. But if I didn't, all that would go into my head, and it would just build up and build up and build up and build up. And I think you're right. I think as soon as you, and coaching sessions give you that self-awareness, because it's about what you want, not what, oh, I think society says I should do this, or, you know, culture says I should do this, or, you know, or people start a job and then they stay there, but that's not true anymore, is it? You know, that people, gone are the days where you have a job for life, although my friend Lynn did say that's what she's aiming for. She wants to stay in the same job, which proper made me laugh the other day. But, you know, that gone are the days of that, and people have a choice. And I think you're dead right. I was definitely one of those people that got up on a Monday morning, went to work, and just thought, this is, and being a teacher, I was just living for every 6 or 7 weeks for the next holiday, and the next holiday, and the next holiday, and the next holiday, and counting down the days.
But there's no way to be, is it?
No. And like, what do you look back on your life and think, oh, well, I'm really pleased that I just spent my life, you know, getting up on this hamster wheel or this treadmill that you call it. So I think that having that self-awareness of what you want to do and how that can fit in with, and the flexibility, I mean, it's just crazy. I was speaking to a local business advisor, and she was saying the amount of phone calls I've had during lockdown of people wanting to start their own businesses has been crazy. It's absolutely crackers. And I was like, well, I'm not really surprised. I think because the world slowed down a little bit, people have had time to stop, think, and reflect on, hang on a minute, what is actually really important to me. And I think they're the things.
Time at home and being with your family. I've loved Robbie not being at school. The homeschooling, trying to fit in a job, a business, and a homeschooling has been horrendous. But we did what we could. But actually, we've learnt loads of other stuff. So we've looked at stuff that's been going on in the news, and then we've kind of like read about it. He's been to work with me. We've just had time together, and I think it's just. I was talking to somebody the other day about the A-level fiasco. And we were just saying, like, where did A-levels get me? And it got me onto my art foundation course to get me to uni. But kids are kind of, again, it's that shoehorning where we kind of force everybody down this one route to market. But what about setting up your own business? What about being an entrepreneur? What about, you know, where do we teach kids that? And I think from an early age, we're just taught that you do A, B, C, and you just follow the herd, don't you? And it's worrying sometimes to step out of it. It's scary, but actually it's fun.
Yeah. And where do we teach them the soft skills of, you know, that emotional intelligence or the communication stuff and all that sort of thing, rather than academic, because and we all know that not every child is really academic, and even so, and again, I've spoken about this in a previous podcast, I think I went to university because my friends went to university. I'm not sure if I'd had coaching, I'm not sure I probably would have sat in my coaching session and go, I don't know. I was having a conversation with somebody whose daughter will be going into year 11. I said, she got any idea what she wants to do? Thinking that she probably wouldn't, because let's be honest, she's 15, coming up 16. She was like, no, she's got no idea. I can't believe she's got no idea. But I was like, I'm probably still not really sure what I want to do when I grow up, but it's okay, and it's almost like, right, be clear on what you don't want to do. Be clear on what you don't want to do. So when someone comes to me for a coaching session and says, I'm really not happy with work, I want to do something different. Okay. I always start with, well, what don't you want to do? Because I think it's so much easier to go, I don't want to sit in an office from 9 till 5. Brill. Okay. Tick. We can move on from that sort of thing. So it's, so has Robbie got any idea what he wants to do then?
So Robbie, I mean, it changes. Obviously, for a while it was footballer, and now it's YouTuber. He'd love to be a YouTuber. He wants. And then when you see these kids win millions on Fortnite challenges and like tournaments and stuff in America, and he's like, "See, told you, that could be me." Like, yes, good, you're right.
Someone's got to do it, hasn't it? Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to. But by the sounds of his Netflix viewing in, during lockdown, he could have his own like Michelin-starred restaurant. Amazing.
We had him cooking during lockdown, and I was like, "Mate, you can cook." So we've had like HelloFresh boxes and stuff. So I was like, "The ingredients are all there. There's your recipe." So he cooked up some real good dinners, and I said, "You could be a chef." And he's like, "No." What about a chefing YouTuber? No, gaming YouTuber.
Whatever. Fair enough. I mean, mine are 5 and 3, and we went out for a meal the other day, and Clementine, who's 3, she'll be 4 next month, and she had my phone and she was like, "Hi guys, so we're in the restaurant," and I was like, "You're 3, not 13, this is bonkers." But she went, and then in comes Flora, right, like, subscribe. I mean, it was only on my phone, it was just a video. She obviously wasn't on YouTube. I'm just thinking,
we've had the same this week. So we've been away, and my sister's boys were there, 7 and 9, and they come to all laughing, like, look at this, look at our video. And my sister's like, where is this being sent? As it's just on a phone, it's fine. But same thing again, and they're like, "Hi, welcome to our channel," and they'll play a game and something, and then Robbie popped up halfway through and he was like, "Buy our merch, like, subscribe." And I'm like, oh, it's just naturally what you do. You're having a conversation with somebody, they're like and subscribe, click the link. It's a whole new way of being, isn't it? It's not something, and they get used to it so quickly. So quickly.
Crazy. It's crazy. So any roles for the future? Any roles that you would like to have for the future, or when you are in the future looking back, what roles do you wish you'd got rid of, or what would you like for the future?
Do you know what? I'm glad that I've stuck to my guns. I'm quite a stubborn person, and it's been a while getting to where I am now, and I can see there's still like ways to go, still a long way to go, but to be able to get to a place where my crafting stuff is more readily available, I've got kits coming out, so there's all sorts of things that are in process, and just to be able to carry on doing that, really. I'd love to have a shop, which is something I discovered this year after I didn't get a shop, and then I was gutted. So I was like, I really do want one. It wasn't just a phase, it wasn't a fad, I really did want one. And all that kind of stuff. So there's still scope with just enjoying what I do and just keep doing that, and raising my bonkers Robbie, and just enjoying that, really, and just be happy. Like, that was what I left uni after a year, and my mum and dad always said, do whatever you want as long as you're happy. And I think it's massively important that you've got to work, mostly you need to earn some pennies, so just make sure that you're happy doing it at the same time. So if I can tick that box, then I'll be chuffed.
It's almost like a little bit of advice to people listening as well, have some reflection time as your job, as one of your roles within your life, as your many roles within life. Your job takes up a huge amount of time, whether you work full-time or part-time, it still takes up a huge amount of time. And how much of that role are you really enjoying? Is it something that excites you, lights you up, wants you, you want to go to it. Because actually I think people think that the people who really love work, they're the lucky ones. Well, actually you have that choice too. You can find something you really enjoy.
It's not been easy, and I didn't just fall into this. I've worked my backside off, and like I say, I've been doing this since 2004. I had a full-time job plus a part-time job plus this, and it's been the same all the time. And it's only within the last few years that I got made redundant and was able to go to work part-time and spend more time on this. But I would never have given up a full-time job because I just wouldn't have dared risk it. So it's taking those opportunities when they're presented, really. And it is hard work. And I work more hours now than I've ever done. But I love it. And I go to work, go to my studio, and I enjoy driving in, and we have a lovely time, and there's other businesses there and other people there, and it's just a nice place to be. And to be able to say that's your job is just perfect, big tick. Love it.
And I suppose it doesn't feel like work. It's not,
it feels like a week off every week. It's fun.
When I was thinking about this question, we're not too far from the end of the episode, actually, so it's probably not a great time to mention it. But when I was thinking about this, I wondered as well, when it comes to roles, whether people have these roles, but also they put like an adjective in front of the role, like, and be a good, to be a good mum, or to be good at my job, almost like, rather than just being, and taking on what society says is a good mom or dad, or what is a good worker, and our culture says that you do certain things. But have you ever got to that point? Have you ever suffered that sort of thing, like, I can't do that because that's not what good mums do, or that's not what good partners do? Or
I think massively when me and Robbie's dad separated, and the amount of people who said to me, like, you can't, what about Robbie? I was like, well, I think a big part of, not my reason, and there's also, I'm not going to go into everything, there was nothing, major, it was just what happened, but I think you've got doing something that is seemingly horrendous and seemingly terrible for a child. Actually, I would hate for Robbie to grow up thinking that you stay somewhere because that's what you're expected to do. And people always say to me, like, Robbie's your most important. It's not, I am. And that's not me being selfish, but you can't pour from an empty jug and all that malarkey. So I'm no good to Robbie if I'm not 100%. So me being 100%, his dad being 100%, and everyone who he interacts with being the best they can be is the best for Robbie. And it's not what I would have wished for him, but it's what he knows now. And actually, I would much rather him get to a point where he's not enjoying something, or he doesn't feel safe, or he doesn't feel like he belongs there, or whatever it is in any situation, to say, do you know what, I'm off. And I think that's really important to teach anybody.
Absolutely.
You don't have to settle. You've got choices, and take them.
Yeah, totally. I think what a great sort of way to sort of finish, to go. We've talked about that you've got choices. You've always got choices. You've got choices within your work, and then you've got choices within your relationship. There's always an option. The amount of times I hear, I can't do that. What about the children? What about this? Like, so my mum and dad split up when I was 6, and back then I was in my class. I think I was the only one who had separated parents, but there was no way on this earth that I would have wanted them to stay together, because it wasn't right. And actually that would have changed me massively. How they would have been interacting with each other as I grew up would have totally changed my perspective on marriage, and what a marriage looks like, or what a relationship looks like. And I probably would have ended up in a relationship that isn't like, and what I actually grew up with was with my mum and my stepdad, who have a great relationship, and are still married now, and I now have something very similar, because they've been my role models. And I think that's the thing, if you've got to think about, kids see it all, don't they? They see all the little
absolutely. They pick up more than you realise, but they're also so much more resilient than people give them credit for. More resilient, I think, than grown-ups.
Totally.
People were like, well, are you going to tell him this, and are you going to tell him that? I will tell him. I've never lied to him. I've always been very honest with him, and but at a level that he needs. And the older he gets, the more he understands and the more he knows. But we've never fibbed to him. We've always been very honest, you know, with what was happening, but at a level that at 4 years old gave him the understanding to deal with it.
Yeah.
And now he's got 2 homes that are equally lovely. He's got siblings at his dad's that he adores and adore him. And then he comes back and he's an only child and he's got that time and he's got, you know, so he has literally got the best of both worlds. So, yeah.
What a great way to finish. Just last thing to say is thank you so much for joining me on episode 10. It's been brilliant. Time has flown. So thanks again.
Thank you, Ellie.
You're welcome.